want to share a story with you about a man named Roy. His name is Roy Neary. And Roy is what we call the common man. He's an everyday person. He's much like you or me. He's not superstar. He's not super famous or anything like that. He's just kind of a humble, everyday man. Roy was a family man. Roy Neary lived in Indiana. He was married. He had kids. He was a lineman. Y'all remember linemen? We have linemen every time we get an ice storm or something. They're the ones out there, and we all start singing, I am a lineman for the county. Please bring the power back on. Roy Neary was a lineman. One night, Roy was out on the road coming home from work, and Roy saw lights in the sky. He had kind of a close encounter, you might say, a close encounter of the third kind. By now you might realize I'm talking about a fictional character, Roy Neary, who was played by Richard Dreyfuss in Steven Spielberg's really groundbreaking 1977 science fiction movie called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. How many of you remember seeing Close Encounters? How many of you saw it at the theater? Oh, good. I'm not alone. I remember seeing that at the theater and was so captivated by Roy Neary and his experience of those lights. And when he saw the lights in the sky, something started to burn within him. Do you remember? He was really churned up. He knew that they were important. This was not fluke. It was not accidental. It was not a weather balloon or anything like that. Something started to turn within Roy Neary, and he's trying to make sense of his experience. And so he goes home, and he starts taking little buckets and bowls of mud, and he starts trying to make something that can help him process what he's feeling inside. Do you remember he starts building these looks like a little Peter Brady volcano. If you remember the Peter Brady building his volcano on the Brady Bunch, it looked to me like that. And Roy kept looking at that little mud mountain or volcano that he was making, and he kept going, this means something. It's important. It means something. He's burning within. Something has captivated him. But it doesn't quite make sense. And it's for those of you who've seen the movie, you remember what he does. He kind of goes off the rails for a bit. He starts bringing more and more mud into the house. And now he's starting to build bigger mud mountains on the counter. And his spouse is like, I got to take the kids home to mom's because I think, Roy, you're losing it. And then eventually Roy, he fills up wheelbarrows full of dirt, and he digs up plants from the yard, and he opens the living room window, and he dumps it all through the window into his living room. And there on the coffee table, he starts building this massive mountain of dirt. And he's going, this means something. This is important. And at one moment, do you remember, he does this. He takes his hand, and he shaves off the top of it, and it looks like a butte. Do you remember that? It wasn't a mountain, it was a butte. And the light starts to come on a little more, and he goes, this means something. This is important. And do you remember at that moment, Spielberg's a genius on this, because he really captivated us, because behind Roy, the TV's playing. And you can't quite make out what's being said on the TV, but we can all see it, even though Roy can't. We can see what's playing on the TV. There's a special news bulletin, and the government agencies are gathering out at the Devil's Butte out in Wyoming. It was one of their first national monuments here in the United States, early 1900s. I think it was Theodore Roosevelt who named it National Monument. And we want to, if you saw it in the theater, I remember wanting to shout at Roy Neary, shout at the screen, buddy, turn around! Right behind you, the answer you are looking for is right behind you on that screen. It's a butte. And he doesn't turn around. He didn't listen to me. He didn't listen to any of us shouting at that screen. He just kept building more and more. He felt like his life was coming apart. And he just kept saying, this is important. This means something. Well, take a look at that downhearted, that disappointed, that discouraged couple on the Emmaus Road who are making their way from Jerusalem back to Emmaus that very first day of Easter. They have a close encounter too, don't they? They have a close encounter of a Jesus kind, or a close encounter of an Emmaus Road kind, or a close encounter of a divine kind. Though they don't know it, do they? They don't quite get what's happening in the moment. they're walking along the road. The Passover is over. And so they're probably walking with hundreds, if not more, of people down this 7-mile road between Jerusalem and Emmaus. People have gone up to Jerusalem, to the temple for Passover, right? And now they're on their way home, and they're a little sad. They're grieving. Their friend, their beloved, the one they believed would be the Messiah, Jesus, has been crucified. And as they walk along this road, a stranger sidles up beside them. And I can imagine what they're going through. You ever had some heavy grief and people kind of, you don't know, they're starting to get in your business and, I'm not sure I want to spend my time entertaining somebody when I'm hurting, when I'm grieving. Just let me be alone. I'm like, the cat, when the cat gets sick, the cat goes off and likes to be alone until it heals, right? That's how I feel when I'm grieving. I don't like a lot of people around me, but this stranger sidles up beside them and asks them this curious question. Why are you so blue? Why are you so sad? What a strange question. And I don't know about you, but I'd be worried that maybe I might be getting played. Like, why are you concerned about me? Are you going to be asking me for money? Hey, let's talk, buddy. As a husband, I might be kind of protective of my spouse. And scholars say that this was likely Cleopas and his spouse named Mary, who were followers of Jesus, a husband and wife walking along the road. I might be protective of my spouse, although I probably turn to Beth and say, you need to protect me. I might wonder, am I getting played? What are you looking for, buddy? And the stranger says, why are you so depressed? What's going on here? And Cleopas, they both stop. They're shocked. And they say, are you the only one who hasn't heard what's going on here? What went on in Jerusalem this weekend? How this one Jesus was arrested, tried, crucified. And we believed, they said. We thought he might be the one to redeem Israel, the Messiah. Some of the women in our group, they went to the tomb. He wasn't there, they said. And they had others go check it out, and it sounded like maybe he'd been risen, but we didn't see anything like that. And so we're going home now. We know who it is, though, don't we? We know who the stranger is. And just like when I was a kid watching Close Encounters at the movie theater, and I wanted to shout at old Roy Neary, turn around! Can't you see right behind you? The answer you're looking for is right there under your nose. Luke is the Spielberg of his day, for sure. He's engaged the followers of Jesus. He's engaged us 2,000 years later. He's drawn us in, and we want to say to Cleopas and Mary, don't you see? Look, it's Jesus, the risen Lord. The people who read Luke for the very first time, they knew it. They've been telling this account numerous times for 50 years. First time we read it, we knew. We'd never read the story or heard it preached before, but we knew that was the risen Christ, didn't we? And we believed it was the risen Christ. And we want to say to Cleopas and Mary, don't be so sad. Turn, look, open your eyes. It's Jesus. He's right there with you. But they don't, do they? They don't see who it is until a little later on when they get down to the end of that Emmaus road in the village of Emmaus where they live. And it looks like we're getting near the end of the day, and they're good folks, and they don't want to let this stranger have to be out on the road at night. That's dangerous. And so they said, no, don't go further. Why don't you stay with us? Come and have something to eat and stay at our home. You can continue your journey the next day. And so he decides to stay. And when is it that they finally recognize who Jesus is? In the breaking of the bread. It says, the stranger took the bread, blessed it, and broke it. And then their eyes were opened. And then they realized for the very first time who it was they'd been walking with all along. It's the risen Christ. And as soon as they identify who he is, the image in front of them quivers and disappears. Before they can grasp him, before they can grab hold of him, he's gone. But they know now. They believe, don't they? And they start to recount what they'd experienced on the road. And do you remember what they said? Didn't our hearts burn within us? Didn't we feel a certain conviction when he started to preach, when he opened up the scriptures to us, when he started to recount to us the words of the prophets from Moses on and connected it to the story of Jesus? Didn't our hearts catch on fire? We're not talking about heartburn here. We're talking about that kind of conviction we all experience when we're experiencing something holy in our lives. When we have a moment, maybe we're walking along a Tybee beach at sunrise and we're bathed in the light and we just can't help but feel the overwhelming presence of God. Or we walk out under a beautiful starlit night. Or maybe we're in church on a Sunday morning and the words of the preacher, just as one Sunday, happen to be connecting with us, speaking directly to us, and our hearts are burning. We're not exactly sure why, but we're stirred up. We know something is bigger, something truer than we've ever experienced. That's what Cleopas and Mary were experiencing. And then when the risen Christ was revealed in the breaking of the bread, it all came together in their looking back. And isn't that just like God? Isn't that your experience? I know it's mine. It all is revealed, just not always in the moment. You know, sometimes we say, okay, Lord, where are you? And you can't seem to find God. And then you get down the road a little bit, and you turn back and go, oh, of course, you were there the whole time. I just missed you. I didn't see you. Do you know Fred Craddock, that North Georgia preacher and scholar at Candler School of Theology in Atlanta, once said that we understand our relationship of God. We make sense of our experiences with the risen Christ in remembrance, in looking back. Remembrance. That's what to remember is. It's to remember, to put the pieces of our experiences together and then come to an understanding. It's not surprising that we don't always recognize God in the moment, but we do in remembering. We remember our experiences when we come to church on a Sunday morning and we hear the words of the preacher. Oh, that helps me understand my experience better. We remember when we go to Bible study on a Sunday morning or dinner and a movie on a Monday night. We put the pieces of our experience together when we start talking about it out loud. We remember when we meet a friend for coffee and we start talking about our experience of the holy. We remember, we make sense of the experience of the holy and the divine in remembrance, says Craddock. Craddock says before an experience, we're not expecting it. We're not thinking about it. We're busy planning. You know the old saying, we make plans, God laughs. I don't think God ever laughs at us. I really don't believe that. That's one problem I had with that saying, that little meme. But I do think when we plan, we're busy planning, we often miss the activity of God that's happening right under our noses. Craddock says, and we don't spot it in the moment because in the moment we're so distracted with whatever's going on in the moment. You go to a wonderful wedding, a family member, you're not thinking about God's presence in that moment. But later, after the wedding's over, after the reception's done, and you're all driving the long drive home after the wedding, then you start to remember. Wasn't it beautiful the way the Spirit of God seemed to be revealed in that one moment when they held hands and said their vows? Or in that one moment at the reception when we all laughed about this, that's when I felt God's presence. It's in the remembering, not in the moment. And these days, in the moment, we are really distracted because what are we doing in the moment these days? We usually have our phones up, don't we? We're taking pictures, we're taking videos, we're doing selfies. We're not really fully in the moment. We're actually trying to capture the moment so we can share it later on. We can post it on our socials. Now, we're in the moment. It's hard to really name that experience. I was thinking about 1980, September. Some buddies of mine got tickets to go see the best rock and roll band ever, Queen, Freddie Mercury and Queen. And I'd seen Freddie Mercury and Queen a number of times already, so I was super excited to get tickets for this tour. And just, we spent a lot of time planning, getting ready. Okay, we're going to leave right after school. We're going to catch that tunnel bus. Where we lived, you could take a bus under the Detroit River, go from Windsor, Ontario, Canada, to Detroit, Michigan, USA. Why on earth our parents ever let us cross an international border by ourselves? And this is back in the day where you didn't need a passport. I think I crossed with a library card once and kind of confused some people. But we went on the tunnel bus. We're gonna go see Queen. We're gonna leave right after school so we can get backstage, maybe see the band going in, getting ready for sound check. Won't that be exciting? I remember on that tunnel bus, I used to have big hair, like kind of long, curly afro-like hair, like many people did in the 70s. I remember some guy on the bus freaked me out when he said, "Hey, dude, can I hide some drugs in your hair? I'm like, no, sir. We're going to cross an international border, and I don't want customs agent. You go to jail for that kind of business. But it freaked me out. I'm just like 16 years of age, and I'm thinking, why is this person bothering me? I'm getting focused, ready for this concert. And then we got into Joe Louis Arena. And if your first, as a teen, your first concerts you go to, Stadium Rock, it's just overwhelming. You go through the hallways, the tunnels, and then you walk into the stadium, and it's cavernous. 20,000 people, and people are popping balloons around the air, bouncing them around, doing other things that were in the air back in maybe still today too, I don't know. And I remember looking across the arena to the other side, and I thought, the people on the other side seem like miles away. This is a massive space, and now we can feel the anticipation. You get that knot in your stomach, your favorite band's about to play, and they're supposed to start at 8 o'clock or something. They didn't start till 8:30, so they left you in that kind of anticipation, that anxious place for a long time. I'm definitely not in the moment. I'm just overwhelmed by it all, overstimulated by everything. And then the house lights drop. And of course, 20,000 roaring fans come to life. We're on our feet, screaming, throwing our hands. And back then you had lighters. Now I know people use their phones. You put your lighter up in the air to make the darkness kind of go away, dispel it with your lighters. And they left us in silence for a bit. And you heard all of a sudden the amps up on stage and the kind of sound that's up in the top of the stadium start humming. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it. We're about ready. And in the darkness, you hear one snap of the snare drum as if Roger Taylor signaling to the lead singer of the band, Freddie Mercury, ready, Freddie. And we all knew it. Ready, Freddie. This is about to begin. And all in one instant, we were like overwhelmed with sensations. Lights flashed on. Flash pots and smoke bombs blew up, and the sound of this crushing rock and roll band came. It sort of blew us away. It was so loud. You could, hairs blowing back by the sound, and all of a sudden we hear ba-da, ba-da. Warden threw a party at the county jail. Prison band was there, they began to wail. And we're like, this is great, this is so amazing. We're like screaming. I remember turning to my friend saying, this is amazing. What song is this? And my friend turns to me and says, I have no idea, but it's awesome. You all know what song it was. Elvis Presley, Jailhouse Rock. We were expecting it to be a Queen song, but they came out with this amazing Elvis Presley song, Jailhouse Rock, but we couldn't make sense of it. We could not figure out what was happening to us in the moment. We were too jacked up with excitement about this band. We were too overwhelmed with other sensations to process it. But when we remembered that it was an Elvis song? About 6 or 8 hours when we went home and we started to remember. It was in remembrance that we started making sense of it. What did they open with? You know what? I think it was Jailhouse Rock. It was Jailhouse Rock, Elvis Presley. Freddie Mercury loved Elvis Presley. He was trying to emulate. You may even remember that year they came out with that song, Crazy Little Thing Called Love, where Freddie sounded a little bit like Elvis, right? Queen emulated King that night, Elvis Presley. But we could not comprehend it until we had a moment of remembrance. I think that's the way it is with our faith. We have experiences of the risen Christ always. God is with us always. But it's not until we spend the time in remembrance that we start to look back down the road and go, oh, now I see. Now I see where God was in my life. Well, I'll let you in on a little secret here. Once you've seen God in your life here or there or a variety of places, you may not be able to experience it, name it in the moment, but you do trust it, don't you? Once you've had experiences of the risen Christ in your life, you start to trust it. And if you can live with trust, you're going to start experiencing that abundant life that Jesus promised. Remember, Jesus said, I have come that you might have life, and you might have it in abundance. One of the ways we experience the abundant life is by trusting that God is with us no matter what. Whether we're experiencing it or not, or can name it, God's there. And if you can live with that kind of trust, you're going to have a whole lot more peace in your life. Some of you maybe have heard that my son Dylan and his wife Sarah Grace and my grandbabies are moving from Ottawa, Canada to Toronto, Canada. And no diss on the people of Ottawa. but Toronto's a far better city. And they're super excited. She's got a new job. Dylan has a job in Toronto. He loves, it's kind of like the New York of Canada. It's a very vibrant city, but it's also a very expensive city. And so leading up to their move, they've been filled with a lot of stress. Can we sell our house? In Ottawa, we've only had it for so long. And if we sell the house, will we be able to recoup from it what we put into it? Will we be able to sell our house for the price we're asking for? And if we sell the house, will we be able to find a place in Toronto that we can actually afford? Or are we going to have to live in a kind of a temporary housing situation with the kids for a year, maybe more, till we can save up to afford to live in this expensive city? And throughout this whole time, I kept saying to my son, Dylan, God's got you. It's going to work out. It's going to work out. God has your lives in his hand, just as sure as God's got my life in God's hand and your life in God's hand. And he's like, I appreciate that, Dad. I'm like, no, we're praying for you, and you just got to trust God's got you. Well, sure enough, their house sold within 6 hours. They got so much more than they were asking for because there was a bidding war 5 ways on this house in that 6 hours. They found a place in Toronto that was empty, they could afford, and they could move in immediately. God's got you. Now, I'm not saying this to critique them. We've all experienced stress and worry, haven't we? Especially when it comes around to buying or selling a house. Very stressful time. But I share this with you because I want to tell you that my son and his wife now have a real experience of a God who will not let them down. So going forward, they can look back and say, you know what? God was there the whole time. Even though we worried, God was there. Even though we were stressed, God was there. So next time the challenge comes along, they can trust God is there. Every one of us should be able to trust. I suspect every one of us is here because we've had an experience of the risen Christ. Every one of you in the room, I'm looking at you and you're still not smiling, but you're here and I love you for it. But I think you're here in response to that experience you've had. And because we've had that experience, we can now live our lives in trust and experience something of that abundant life that Jesus promised us. Do you know, Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1 says, faith is the assurance of things hoped for. It is the conviction of things unseen. The conviction of things unseen. We should be living with the conviction that God is with us no matter what, whether we can see God or not. Live with that kind of faith. See what happens in this world. Live with that kind of faith. See what happens in your life. The conviction that God is with you no matter what. Now, I was over here yesterday afternoon getting ready for today. And I was thinking about this old gospel song. You all know it. We've sung it in this church before. One of my favorites called Just a Closer Walk with Thee. I was thinking about those words. It's a prayer song, isn't it? The person who wrote it is praying, God, walk with me. Walk with me along the road of my life, basically. Walk with me. And throughout the verses, I looked it up. The person is singing, walk with me in this day, walk with me in the hard time, walk with me along the path all the way to the kingdom of heaven. Beautiful. But then I was thinking about the road to Emmaus couple, and I was thinking, God's walking with us already. Just like Roy Neary, turn around. Just look. You will see it. You want to say to Cleopas and Mary, just open your eyes. Don't you see he's there already? And so I thought, we probably need another verse somewhere in that song that reminds us that God is walking close to us all the time. And so I wrote one. I adapted one because it's hardly original. And this is what I wrote. Just a closer walk with thee. Grant it, Jesus, is my plea. Clear my eyes that I may see that you, dear Lord, are close to me. Maybe that's our prayers. To ask God to help us live our lives with trust and be blessed with peace when we do. To help us clear the eyes of our heads and the eyes of our hearts, that we might see God as with us always. It's our job to look for Him, to listen for Him, to trust Him, and then respond to Him. It's not a God problem. This is you and me challenge. This you and me are challenged to look for Jesus, the risen Christ who walks with us along every road. He's with us always. Praise be to God. Amen.